Hey guys, welcome to iTech from the John Carroll School and John Carroll community. This is really a nice way for you to allow me to come and speak to you because frankly, although I love to fly, it takes a long time to get from here to Maryland, so thank you for coming down here to visit us for a few minutes. I understand that you guys are having a book day assembly because unusually, it sounds like you have a program for reading books in the summer. And frankly, I think that that is a great idea. My mom told me when I was a little boy something I didn't really believe, but she said the reader is the leader. And I have found lots of people that I've met around the world who really don't have much education, but who like to read. And I have found out that it's true. Education doesn't just happen in the classroom. If you can get into a book, a good book, you can go any place in the world in a fraction of a second and learn things that you never imagined. Especially, I like true stories, but I got word that some of you had even read a book that I had written, End of the Spear. So if you did, I want you all to mark yourselves down for an A if you understood it. Actually, I imagine there's something of a mystery in how you write books. You know what? I've now finished number 4 book. Should be out. It's called Walking His Trail, Signs of God Along the Way. It has a, well, here, I'll show you. I think I've got a cover. I haven't actually seen a copy of the book yet, but the cover looks like a guidebook, you know, for directions on trail. And if any of you liked End of the Spear, I think you'll like this one. This is just true stories that I have seen God doing while I've been here on this little planet floating out in space for the last 50 years or so. But hey, let's see, what was it that this is the year for that the Social Studies Department ran the book reading section, is that right? Well, I'm not sure that I really fully understand what social studies is yet, but I had a lot of fun in those classes. And don't you be telling your teacher that, all right? Now, I got a quiz for you. No, I'll tell you what, let's just skip the quiz for today and let's go on to some more exciting things like sustainable development. You know, the idea of development, I think everybody understands, but sustainable development is really something that is extremely important in emerging parts of the world, places that we've called the third world or the fourth world. The reason I don't call it that is, can you imagine if you were in a race and you came in third? It might be a little humiliating. Well, people that live in parts of the world that we call the third world don't really appreciate us referring to them as though they're coming in last. You know, we're the second world and Europe is the first world and they're the third world. But in a lot of those places, there are tools that they could use, but they can't sustain them, so they've got to depend on other people to give them those tools. Or what is more common is people from the developed world or places like here in North America go and do things for people that they really want to do for themselves. And you know, that carries over into all areas, including Great Commission efforts. Now, it may not seem like a big deal to you. I mean, if you had to make your bed and your mother would do it for you, even in high school, I bet you'd be happy. But you know what? It isn't very long before we get to an age where we don't want people doing stuff for us. We don't want people driving us around. We want to drive, and a lot of you know because you've gotten your driver's licenses. And you know, it opens up a huge perspective on the world. Well, in a lot of parts of the world, there are people that have been God followers for decades and still have people from North America and places like this going over to do things for them that they really want to do themselves. That's why iTech is here. iTech stands for the Indigenous Peoples Technology and Education Center. Some of you may have picked that up in End of the Spear if you read the book. But you know, I still have people here in North America wondering why we do what we do. Well, it's a lot like what I see on your website, that there are 3 important things. If I can turn back to that page. Putting your faith into action means not just believing, but actually acting out your faith. James 1 says, the true Christian from God the Father's point of view is the one who takes care of the widows and the orphans, and it says, and remains true to the faith. It calls for action. And it also says that faith without action is dead. It really isn't worth anything. It's like salt that's lost its flavor. I think your website also talks about believing that the gospel can break through any barriers. You know, every place I go and speak with Grandfather Minkai, who you would know as Minkayani from the movie, people want to know how in the world I could have forgiven the man who killed my father, because we're traveling right together and it's pretty obvious that we're good friends. You know what? I think the bigger question is, how can the gospel change somebody like Minkai to make him lovable? But you know what's even a bigger mystery, I think? Now, Minkai didn't like killing people, but in his culture it was a matter either kill and live or be killed and die. But I grew up in a culture that taught me to be a good boy, and you know, I kind of minded my P's and Q's. I've never killed anybody that I know of. I really think it's almost a bigger mystery how God can reach out and change the heart of somebody like me, who society doesn't really think needs to be changed. And yet, if I believe the Bible, it says that I was just as lost and just as condemned for my sin as Minkai was for his. How do we get there? We need to trust God, and we need to walk His trail. And that's what that new movie's about, or that movie. Please know. The new book. It's just stories that I have seen of God intervening in my life. And my hope is that young people, especially young people like you, will start making a note of those times in your life when it would take more faith to believe that something just happened than to believe that God intervened in your life.